Hi, and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 496, and today's date is October 18th, 2014, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief for this Saturday. And we know that the United States and Europe have placed sanctions on Russia, even though Russia has kind of helped along this ceasefire peace deal in Ukraine. But that really didn't matter. And what we're seeing is they're continually trying to provoke Russia, continually, nonstop, because we have to understand the United States government, central bankers realize that this entire system is coming down. And what we have seen today is that the Moody's International Ratings Agency downgraded Russia's credit from Baa2 to Baa1, naming the Ukrainian crisis and the Western economic sanctions among the main drivers for this downgrade. And we can see they're continually doing this. And we have to remember these credit rating agencies are controlled by banks and the central bank. Just remember back to the 2008 crisis. They put their AAA rating on these subprime securities and said they were completely safe, no problem whatsoever. And then we come to find out that they were all toxic. And we can see right now China and Russia, they realize this, they realize everything is fixed, and what they're doing is they are creating their own rating agency. Now, does that mean it's going to be any better than this? Will it be an honest rating agency? Well, we really don't know. But they're sick and tired of this central banking rating agency system rating their countries, and they decided, you know what, the BRIC countries need their own. And we can see they're moving, again, separate and apart from what's going on here. Now, I see FBI director out there, Comey. He is just yelling and screaming about how could Apple and Google place this encryption on the phones? This is not right. And he's going on and on and on and on and on. Now, there's either two things happening here. One, there is encryption, and they don't know the method or the key, and they can't get into it. And, of course, they love to access everyone's phone. They like to get all the information. Or he's saying this so everyone feels like their phones are secure and safe, and everyone places their personal information, their bank account information, and anything else on their phone, and giving everyone that feeling of, it's okay, you can do this. But we have to remember, if we go on the view that they are encrypted, again, the United States government has no right whatsoever to impede on our privacy or to search through things. I mean, look at the Fourth Amendment here. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects. Your phone is your effect. Against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. And we can see right now Comey is out there, and he's kind of pissed. He spent about an hour attacking the companies and the very idea of encryption, even suggesting that Congress should pass a law banning the practice of default encryption. Now, think about this. In your home, you have a safe. That's where you keep your documents. That is your encryption right there. It's the same thing on your phone, and the only way the U.S. government or any other type of law agency can get into this is by a warrant, and it should be the same exact thing with your phone. There's absolutely no difference whatsoever, and him just screaming and yelling is absolutely ridiculous. He needs to take a look at the Constitution here and understand what is going on. And of course, there are two things happening here. Either he wants you to feel comfortable, or they really can't get in. Either way, don't keep anything on your phone that's really important. I don't keep anything on my phone that's important whatsoever. Anything that's important should be kept in a safe, hidden away from government whatsoever. You need to protect yourself. You have the right to privacy. The only way they can see these things is through a warrant. But as we know, the NSA, the FBI, DHS, they all have back doors into all our electronic devices, and they are completely in violation of the Fourth Amendment, but they don't really care because we're heading towards the end game, and we can see right now this is completely unacceptable to the people of the United States. Now, it looks like Obamacare is having more and more problems right now. Obamacare customers fear to make use of their taxpayer subsidies, hyper-regulated benefits because the deductibles are so high. Insurance premiums rising at least as much as they would have without the trillion plus dollars sunk into Obamacare, and absolutely skyrocketing because of the Affordable Care Act in many parts of the country. But even among those who receive enough subsidy money from the rest of us to offset high premiums, killer deductibles make their coverage much more expensive in practice, to the point of rendering them virtually useless. And I've said this many, many times before, and now people are starting to realize this, because when your deductible is very high, and of course many of these policies are very high, and we'll just pick one out. Let's say it's $5,000 for the family. You will continually pay $400, $500, $300 a month or $200 a month for your insurance, and then you have to dig deep back into your pocket and pull out more money to go to the doctor until you reach that deductible. If it's $5,000 for the family, that means the entire family has to reach $5,000. So if you go to the doctor and it's $200, insurance is not going to cover this. You have to pay $200 plus your premium each month. And the deductible resets every year. And people are starting to realize, well, wait a minute, I know I got subsidized, but now I have to pay out of pocket? This makes no sense. So now I'm only paying $100 a month, but I just paid $200 to go to the doctor, $100 this time, $300 that time, and by the time you're done, if your deductible is $5,000, you spent a lot of money. And people are starting to wake up and realize this, that this whole system was not designed to benefit the people. It was designed to bring in money to the government and to the insurance companies. Now, it looks like the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, there is an update from WikiLeaks. The TPP is the world's largest economic trade agreement that will, if it comes into force, encompass more than 40% of the world's GDP. And of course, this is something they like to keep private. They don't want anyone to read it or understand it, but there are leaks that come out. The IP Charter covers topics from pharmaceuticals, patent registration, and copyright issues to digital rights. Experts say it will affect freedom of information, civil liberties, and access to medicines globally. And of course, we know this. This is why they're trying to keep it a secret, because if this really came out, people would not vote for this whatsoever, and countries should not vote for this whatsoever. It is not in the best interest for the people. It is in the best interest for the central bankers, and that is it. Period. Now, it looks like Fidel Castro is going to offer cooperation with the U.S. to fight against Ebola. Fidel Castro has expressed Cuba's readiness to cooperate with the U.S. in the global fight against Ebola. Cuba has been on the front line of international response to the worst outbreak in the disease history. Cuba is the only one that I know is responding with human resources in terms of health, doctors, and nurses. Many of the other countries like UK and the United States are bringing in military assets to help the situation. Although Cuba is far from being a prospering economy, it boasts one of the best medical systems in the world and often lends helping hands in the aftermath of natural disasters and epidemics. And we can see right now Cuba has been sending these doctors and nurses into these countries trying to help out. Now, it looks like President Obama doesn't want to ban passengers coming from these West African countries because he's saying it will make the problem worse, because people will go and lie on their forms. I mean, like Thomas Duncan did, and they'll fly to different places and then come to the United States, and we would have no idea, where they came from. And of course, you can do this without putting bans. But what we have seen here is that those countries that have placed bans stopped the flow of Ebola victims coming into the country. Look at Senegal. They close their borders. They're banning people from coming into the country at this point in time. If you're coming from Liberia, if you're coming from Sierra Leone, if you're coming from Guinea, and we see there's 30 other countries that have done the same exact thing. And guess what? We see nothing in there whatsoever, no cases whatsoever. And some of those countries are Chad, Cameroon, Angola, South Africa, and we can see that there are many countries that are doing this. And when we look at this, guess what? It kind of does work. And we basically, what we need from all of this is we need a reliable test to test people to find out if they have it or not. But I think if they do put a ban on those people coming from West Africa, yes, every little bit helps. Now the question is, why doesn't he want to ban those people coming? Why does he want to stop the travel between the United States and West Africa? Is this because then businesses couldn't fly in there, do their business with oil? Because you have to remember, bidding is now open in Liberia for companies to come in to help drill in these countries. And I believe this is one of the reasons why he doesn't want to do this. Now, it looks like a new report claims that President Obama is considering a plan to bring the world's Ebola patients to the United States to be treated. Judicial Watch, the conservative public watchdog group, says in a shocking report, the president is actively formulating plans to admit Ebola-infected non-citizens just to be treated here in the United States. Now, this is a little concerning, and maybe these people should be flying to those countries where they're infected, because why would you want to bring a patient into the country and infect an entire country when you can bring a couple of people to that country, set up a system there, and treat them there? It makes no sense whatsoever. Now, we understand there is about 500 or so troops in Liberia at this point, and we can see more are on their way to move into West Africa. And the armed forces, they are saying if any American soldier in Liberia contract the deadly Ebola virus, they will be quarantined, stabilized, and evacuated to a medical facility for treatment, adding that the U.S. military hospitals that will admit potentially infected troops have not yet been identified. So let's see. We gave our troops 4 hours of training on Ebola, which are completely worthless. We sent military troops down into these countries, and we have no procedures whatsoever in place if any of these soldiers get infected. It seems a little ridiculous to me. It seems like there's a different agenda being done in West Africa at this time, and they could care less about treating the soldiers, because they would have all this in place. What hospital, what the protocols are going to be. And again, this is nothing new here. They've been treating this in West Africa for over a year. And the CDC's been there. Doctors have been there. Many people have been down there. And they should have all these protocols in place already. And of course, now we know there is an Ebola czar that Obama has appointed into the position. And of course, he is a lawyer, not a doctor. And again, he is a PR person to control the entire situation and contain it. He's a PR marketing person, which is a lawyer, who is going to skirt around everything that comes up. And we can see that this is in no way a person that can control and make decisions on Ebola whatsoever. Now, it looks like GlaxoSmithKline said on Saturday that they are on a fast track to move their vaccines forward. Development of the vaccine candidate is progressing at an unprecedented rate, with first phase safety trials with the vaccine candidate underway in the US, UK, and Mali, and further trials due to start in the coming weeks. The firm said in a statement posted on its website, the company said preliminary data from the trials was expected by the end of 2014, and that if successful, the next phase involving the vaccination of frontline health care workers in Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia would begin in the early 2015. Now we can see that all of a sudden we have all these vaccines on a fast track trying to vaccinate all these people. We have this new Ebola czar, and again, the administration's out there saying we weren't looking for someone who is an expert in Ebola. Well, if he's the Ebola czar, shouldn't he be someone who is an expert in Ebola? We shouldn't have a marketing PR person who knows the law to skirt around it to give us stories about what's really going on, and this is exactly what they're doing. The reason for all of this is what? Well, we can see, and we have to follow the money. Now, as we have the Ebola czar, Obama, of course, will be asking Congress for a lot more money. Where will this money flow to? To the vaccine companies to help them develop this vaccine. Then where will this go? This will go probably to mandatory vaccines later on, and we can see they are on a fast track. And again, there is always multiple agendas with these types of things. Now, in Ukraine, it looks like Poroshenko and Russia have decided and agreed on a gas deal for the winter. It looks like it's $385 per 1,000 cubic meters for the winter supply, and it seems like they are continually talking. They're making peace right now, and we still have to remember there is Yatsenyuk, John Kerry, and the central bankers all on the other side, and we're going to have to see how this plays out. But it looks like Poroshenko is looking at his people, looking out his window, seeing rioting, protesting, and he is getting worried. Now, we understand the United States central government, the United States central bankers are continually bombing the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, and the Iraqi government now has opened an air corridor for jets from the U.S.-led coalition against the Islamic State, with the exception of aircraft belonging to the United Arab Emirates. Now, why did they do this? Not sure at this point in time, but what we can see is happening is they are putting everything into place to move this along very, very quickly. You have to remember, the U.S. government already knows what their plans are, and they always put everything into place beforehand, and they always say, oh, look, we have that ready already. Just like certain bills, like the new bill that's going around where they can go after any terrorists anywhere in the world if they're Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, or any other terrorists. Charles Rangel already has the draft bill sitting there waiting. They've already set up a division headquarters in Iraq that can support 10 to 30,000 soldiers. We can see they've been clearing the area in Syria right now, in the eastern section and the northern section, destroying the air bases and all the infrastructure. We can see already they have the propaganda out there that the Islamic State now can fly planes. All of this is in preparation. They do it very, very slowly, very methodically, to make sure they have everything in place. Then all of a sudden they say, wow, look what happened. We already have something in place to cover that. And we've seen this many, many times before. We also know with Ebola, it looks like FEMA has a pandemic drill going on, and of course we've seen this many, many times before, and we need to watch this. When the World Trade Centers came down, there was a FEMA drill happening the day before it even happened, and now we have the FEMA pandemic drill going on until December of 2014. So we can see all these things have been put in place on purpose because they understand where they're trying to get to, and they make sure they are covered and ready to go once they create the event. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.